For the longest time, like so many franchises that started off on the PC, people assumed that the Civilization series was best left on the platform it began on. The idea of trying to control all the intricacies of starting at the most basic level of civilization, working your way up to the modern day and beyond on a console, was somewhat unthinkable for the longest time. Now, I will grant you, Civilization 2 was put out on the PS1, but as you might expect, it had some pretty serious interface issues, and the idea of doing more ports was nixed for quite a while. It wouldn't be until after Civilization 4 that another console version was released in Civilization Revolution. And I'm glad that they got the idea of just porting the games over out of their head with that Civ 2 port, because Civilization Revolution is in no way a port of the PC native Civ game. Revolution was instead designed from the ground up to be at its best on consoles, from the graphical style to the all-important user interface. Now, what this means in a practical sense is that everything is a lot more simple, because you need to be able to navigate the menus with the controller and easily digest all the information you need to through the use of text you're reading from your couch. But despite the challenges, the game does a really great job of making everything work. You can easily flick through your cities and active units, managing build queues and issuing orders, all while having a relatively comprehensive overview of everything happening throughout your empire. Though, as with PC Civ, it does become somewhat of a laborious chore in the late game, having to constantly garrison units and move them into armies as your cities churn them out once every turn and you move them to the front. And it's worse on console because you can't just mouse look around, you have to slowly pan the camera. But while that simplification is mostly beneficial, it has somewhat of a downside. Everything about this game has been dumbed down to the point where it's an almost entirely different experience from what PC gamers have come to expect from Civilization. It's just missing a lot of the depth that would usually be there. And while that's a bad thing on its face, and the game is certainly a much more casual experience, I feel like it's important to look at this game as an almost different beast entirely. Because as someone who really enjoys a good 4X, even games that would mostly be considered far more complex than Civilization, Revolution still plays an important role in my strategy game library, a sort of shallow strategy game, where I can blow through the complete history of mankind relatively quickly compared to the standard length of a game of Civ, and still have a thoroughly enjoyable time outmaneuvering and outclassing my artificially intelligent opponents. I look at it as a sort of compressed Civilization experience, one without as much of the resource management or layers upon layers of different concerns. Its lack of those elements doesn't necessarily make it a better game, but it makes it something different, something enjoyable on its own merits. But that's not to say it doesn't hold a lot in common with its big brothers, especially where it matters most. At some point, as you make your way through the game, the frame rate goes to shit and your turns take forever, just like the modern Civ games do on PC when they're first released. But just like those more mainline Civ games, you get used to it. You find it doesn't matter to you as much, because everything else is so engaging. Making all the decisions every turn is tedious as hell, sure, but the end result you get out of putting that effort in is one of the most satisfying feelings there is in gaming. And Civilization Revolution, despite the simplification it has undergone, does a wonderful job of bringing that feeling to consoles entirely intact, while also making the necessary concessions feel like fun new features to a veteran Civ player. Civ Rev definitely isn't what I would refer to as the best Civ game, but it's something pretty substantially different, and that's what makes it great in its own fantastically unique way. Every Friday, I look at a game that was either ignored when it came out or has been forgotten since, a game that people have missed. If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see the latest videos. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button, and thanks for watching.